Maher, with his easy smile and tousled brown hair, threw his arm around Hasna. The two of them had been friends for years, their bond evident in the way they moved together, effortlessly in sync. Maher was always the life of the party, his infectious energy drawing people in. Hasna, on the other hand, had a quieter charm, her laughter a melody that made everyone feel at ease. Hasna, her fiery red curls a stark contrast to his dark features, laughed, her green eyes sparkling. She had a way of lighting up a room, her presence magnetic. People often found themselves gravitating towards her, drawn by her warmth and genuine interest in their stories. Her beaded necklace clicked against her teeth as she grinned. It was a gift from her grandmother, a cherished heirloom that she wore to every special occasion. The beads, each a different colour, seemed to tell a story of their own, adding to her enigmatic aura. Sally, a vision in a flowing blue dress, smoothed her blonde hair nervously. She had always been a bit shy, preferring the company of a good book to the bustling energy of a party. Tonight, however, she had decided to step out of her comfort zone, encouraged by her friends to join in the festivities. Next to her, Sarah, with her signature black eyeliner and ripped jeans, rolled her eyes. Sarah was the rebel of the group, always pushing boundaries and challenging norms. She had a tough exterior, but those who knew her well understood that it was just a facade, hiding a heart of gold.
Lighten up, Sally, it's just a party. Sarah's voice was teasing, but there was an underlying note of encouragement. She knew how hard it was for Sally to be here, and she wanted to make sure her friend felt supported.
Sally bit her lip, her blue eyes wide with worry. She glanced around the room, taking in the sea of unfamiliar faces. The noise, the lights, the sheer number of people, it was all a bit overwhelming for her.
I know. Sally's voice was barely above a whisper, her anxiety evident. She took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. She wanted to enjoy the night, to be a part of the fun, but it was easier said than done. It's just, I don't like parties. Her admission hung in the air, a stark contrast to the lively atmosphere around them. But her friends understood, and they were there to support her, no matter what.
The construction site was a strange place for a party, but somehow it worked. The juxtaposition of hard hats and party hats was amusing, and the guests seemed to revel in the novelty of it all. The air was filled with laughter and the clinking of plastic cups, a stark contrast to the usual sounds of machinery and construction. Half-finished buildings loomed against the darkening sky, the metal skeletons stark and imposing. The twilight added a surreal quality to the scene, making the steel beams look like the bones of some ancient, forgotten beast. It was as if the construction site had been transformed into a playground for adults, a place where the ordinary rules didn't apply. Fairy lights strung across scaffolding cast an eerie glow on the makeshift dance floor below. The lights twinkled like stars, creating a magical atmosphere that was both enchanting and slightly unsettling. The scaffolding, usually a symbol of work and progress, had been repurposed into a framework for celebration. Music pulsed, a steady beat that vibrated through the ground and up into their bones. The makeshift dance floor was alive with movement as people swayed and twirled to the rhythm. The DJ, perched on a stack of wooden pallets, kept the energy high, mixing tracks that seemed to blend seamlessly with the industrial backdrop. The air buzzed with excitement, a strange mix of celebration and unease. There was a sense of rebellion in the air, as if the guests were defying the very nature of the place. The usual rules of safety and caution seemed to have been temporarily suspended, replaced by a carefree spirit that was both exhilarating and a little dangerous. The usual birthday party decorations seemed out of place against the backdrop of concrete and steel. Balloons and streamers, symbols of joy and festivity, clashed with the raw, unfinished surfaces of the construction site. Yet this contrast only added to the unique charm of the event, making it a birthday party that no one would soon forget. Balloons bobbed against warning signs, and streamers fluttered from the arms of a nearby crane. The decorations, though simple, had a whimsical quality that softened the harsh lines of the construction site. It was a reminder that even in the most unexpected places, joy could be found.
Happy birthday, David! The shout echoed through the site, a chorus of voices coming together in celebration. David, the man of the hour, stood beaming, clearly touched by the effort his friends had put into making this a night to remember.
Maher shouted over the music, his voice barely audible above the thumping bass. He was clearly enjoying himself, his enthusiasm infectious. The guests responded with cheers and laughter, their spirits lifted by the camaraderie and the sheer novelty of the setting, raising his plastic cup in a toast to David and to many more nights like this. The toast was met with a chorus of agreement, the guests raising their cups high. It was a moment of unity, a shared experience that would be talked about for years to come. Jianghan, the fortune-teller, sat shrouded in shadow. Her eyes, dark and knowing, seemed to follow their every move. She wore a shawl, its fabric worn thin with time, and heavy silver bangles adorned her wrists.
You want your fortune told, pretty one?
Sally shifted uncomfortably, but Sarah, ever the daredevil, pushed her forward. Jianghan's smile widened, revealing a chipped tooth.
The future is a fickle thing, but sometimes it sends warnings.
Her words hung in the air, heavy and ominous. Despite the fortune-teller's cryptic words, the party continued. The room was filled with vibrant energy, a stark contrast to the ominous prediction that had been shared earlier. The guests, dressed in their finest, seemed determined to enjoy the night, pushing aside any lingering doubts or fears. The air was thick with the scent of perfume and cologne, mingling with the aroma of delicious food being served. Laughter rang out, punctuated by bursts of music and the clinking of glasses. Friends toasted to good times, their faces lit up with joy and camaraderie. It was as if the fortune-teller's words had been forgotten, buried under layers of merriment and celebration. Maher spun Hasna around the dance floor, their bodies moving as one. They were lost in the rhythm, their movements fluid and graceful. The connection between them was palpable, drawing the attention of those around them. It was a moment of pure bliss, a temporary escape from reality. But a seed of unease had been planted. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but it was there. A shadow lurking in the corners of the room, waiting for the right moment to make its presence known. Sally couldn't shake off the feeling of being watched, the hairs on the back of her neck prickling with a strange awareness. She glanced around, trying to pinpoint the source of her discomfort, but found nothing out of the ordinary. The feeling persisted, gnawing at her, making it hard to fully enjoy the festivities. Even Sarah, usually immune to fear, seemed subdued. Her usual lively demeanor was replaced with a quiet, contemplative air. She stood at the edge of the room, watching the revelry with a distant look in her eyes, as if she was seeing something no one else could. She kept glancing over her shoulder, her eyes scanning the crowd. There was a tension in her posture, a readiness to react at a moment's notice. It was clear that the fortune-teller's words had affected her more deeply than she cared to admit.
What was that about?
Maher asked, catching Hasna's hand as the music stopped. His eyes searched hers for answers, trying to understand the sudden shift in the atmosphere. The connection they had felt moments ago seemed to waver, replaced by a shared sense of uncertainty.
Jianghan. Her words, they felt different. Hasna's voice was tinged with confusion, her brows furrowing as she tried to make sense of the unease that had settled over her. It was as if the fortune-teller's prophecy had cast a long shadow over the night, one that was impossible to ignore.
And then, without warning, the lights went out. The music stopped abruptly, plunging the construction site into darkness. Screams pierced the night, followed by an eerie silence.
What happened?
I can't see.
Where is everyone?
The dance floor, once teeming with life, was empty. The partygoers, their laughter and chatter just moments ago filling the air, were gone, vanished. Panic clawed at their throats. They stumbled through the darkness, calling out names, their voices echoing off the concrete structures. Each unanswered call amplified the terror that was rapidly tightening its grip.
Maher, over here!
Hasna's voice, sharp and desperate, cut through the silence. She stood by a pile of scaffolding, her face illuminated by the pale light of her phone.
I found something, she said, her voice barely a whisper.
On the ground, a single shoe lay abandoned, a splash of red against the grey concrete. It was Sally's shoe. Suddenly, A light flickered in the distance. Hope surged through them, a lifeline in the suffocating darkness. They ran towards the light, their hearts pounding in their chests.
David?
Maher called out, his voice hoarse with hope and fear. As they got closer, they realized it was a single lantern, swinging gently from a hook on one of the unfinished buildings. Below it, a figure stood, shrouded in shadow. It wasn't David. It was Jianghan, the fortune-teller, her eyes gleaming in the lantern light. A slow, knowing smile spread across her face.
Where is everyone? Hasna demanded, her voice cracking with terror. What have you done with them?
Jianghan took a step closer, her shadow stretching towards them like a grasping hand. The lantern light danced in her eyes, reflecting a terrifying amusement.
You were warned, she whispered, her voice raspy and low. The future is a fickle thing. But sometimes, she paused, letting the silence stretch thick and heavy with dread. It's fate.
And then, with a soft chuckle that echoed through the empty construction site, she turned and melted into the shadows. They stood there frozen in fear, the weight of Jianghan's words pressing down on them like a physical thing. The silence was deafening, broken only by the sound of their own ragged breaths. As they stood there, bathed in the pale light of the lantern, they noticed something strange. On the ground, scrawled in what looked like blood, was a single word: run.